Alright, I think I'm good to go. Hello, guys. This me, I need to scooch my monitor down. And, this is mainly for a friend of mine who, wants to get into something called DOS. It's basically a retro game thing where, well, it's basically Windows before there was actual Windows. And I will make an edited version of this sometime soon. Yeah, desktop is kind of cluttered, but whatever. So this is mainly just teaching him how to do it. So first thing that you need is you need an emulator, and pretty much the best one is DOSBox. So if you just launch DOSBox, you'll see this screen. Hold up. It did a funky. When it does a funky like that, there's something you need to do. So you'll see this thing called DOSBox. Well, this is version 0.74 options.bat. You're going to need to open that up. Now, what this is, it's basically all the settings for DOSBox. So you see this, this is configuration, blah, blah, blah. Full screen, start DOSBox directly in full screen. Full double, use double buffering in full screen. It can reduce screen flickering, but can also result in a slow DOSBox. And then the three things that we need to see here are full resolution, window resolution, and then output. Now, what you do based on output, hold on, let me change where my face is so you can see all the text. What's different with output is basically what sort of renderer the software uses. It always defaults to Surface. Or right here. Now, that isn't ideal, because you saw how low the thing looked. And then you see this full resolution. This is the full screen resolution that you get for when you go into full screen. But I will not go into full screen very often. Now, when it says full resolution, what it doesn't mention is there is one thing that you can do for... Oh, no, it does mention it. You type in, if you want to use your monitor's native resolution, you type in, oh, and this is also so that it plays nice with OBS. You type in aspect equals true. This sets the full screen resolution to whatever native resolution your monitor or screen is. So I'm going to save with Control S, or just hit save. And by the way, this is creating a config file in like a documents folder. So you can exit out if you want, but I'm going to minimize. Now, I'm going to load DOSBox again and go into full screen. And whoops, it's super tiny. it was set to aspect equals true, but that is not full resolution at all. Although it does switch between the two things much easier. So, oh, one thing to mention. When you load DOSBox, it opens up two windows. The actual emulator and the status window. So I'm going to, if you close the status window, it will close DOSBox. If you close DOSBox, it'll close both. Go back to the options. Now, if you want that thing to be fixed, I would say there's two things that you could do for the full window to be shown and things to actually scale. It automatically goes to surface, which I do not recommend. Unless you're like using a CRT. That's basically all it's useful for. It's just really blurry when scaled up. Then there's overlay, and then there's OpenGL, OpenGL NB, and DDraw. I highly recommend doing. Well, I like to do DDraw because it is a software solution, which means slower processors could have a problem with it. But it has the best scaling in my opinion. But I'm going to show you what the other ones look like first. Overlay. Save. Go back to DOSBox. Full screen. And there, look. It's scaled. Looks kind of blurry, though. Go back. Change to OpenGL. This is a hardware accelerated scale. And boom, the frame rates, if you see the GeForce stuff that was going on, it doesn't necessarily like that in full screen for OpenGL mode. Type in OpenGL NB. I actually haven't used this one before. Back to DOSBox, full screen. And it's a slightly sharper scale, but the same GeForce experience problems. I keep on doing that. And then there's my favorite one, DDraw. Now you can see that it has the best GeForce experience things where you can actually see the frame rate. It says it's 13, but that's just for the command prompt menu thing. So yeah, I would just stick to DDraw whenever possible for scaling. Then if you scroll a little further down, you'll see some more options. Language and machine. It tries, well, this is basically telling it to emulate a specific type of emulator or a specific type of DOS machine. Now, I wouldn't really do this unless you're trying to play a specific game that requires a certain graphics mode. Like if you want to do EGA graphics, CGA, PC Junior, Tandy, whatever. I would just leave it where it usually defaults to, SVGA underscore S3. That's just better. And then there's captures that doesn't need anything. Then mem size, the amount of memory DOSBox has available in megabytes. It isn't really needed unless you're playing like really late games. So I would just leave it as default. render aspect and scalar if you want if you want to do a different kind of scalar like Super Eagle or whatever. Although it doesn't have very good results if you don't have the plugin available. So I just leave it be at standard normal 2x. I mean, it looks good enough. Then there's the CPU cycle stuff. You can just leave it alone. Mixer. Okay. This is kind of important because this is basically like how good the sound quality is going to be. I would increase this to 4800. This is basically how good the sound quality is in the emulation. And now here's the MIDI stuff. You don't need to touch these unless you actually have a MIDI external device driver. Then you'll need to do this. Or if you have a MIDI emulator, such as like in yes, Water Scout, DOSBox does work on Linux. It is an open source emulator. At least I think it's open source. Now, Sound Blaster. This is all pretty important stuff that unless you want a specific sound card, then I would just leave this alone. Because this is all the different stuff that it's trying to... This is basically for trying to use a Sound Blaster card in a game. You're going to need to leave this alone, but then, obviously. Yeah, this OPL rate, if you changed your sound quality setting up here, you're going to want to change that to reflect it. SB mixer true. OPL mode, it says auto, which is good for the most part. What do you mean in the software center? Hold on, let me get chat showing. Wait just a second. Let's grab a link. Hold on. You will have it below me. Right here seems good. Oh, the Ubuntu Software Center. Okay. By the way, if you want to know where to find where to grab DOSBox itself, it's, well, as my friend here said, it's in the Ubuntu Software Center if you do use Linux. I personally use Windows, but that is a viable option if you are a Linux user. You can just type in DOSBox in Google, and usually the just like GitHub or something like that should be fine. Or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, back on track. You don't need to change the OPL stuff unless you want a specific sound, but that's if you're playing a specific game. Gus, or the Gravis Ultrasound, you'll need an external file in order to get this running. And this is only if you want a very specific sound, so I wouldn't touch this. Speaker. Okay. This is for, this is again for certain game compatibility, like older games, you don't necessarily need to change these settings, but I will change the rates right there. Joystick, you don't need to touch that. Serial, you don't need to do that. And then DOS, don't need to touch that. IPX, auto exec. Auto exec is something that is pretty important, but I'll get to that later. So for now, this is all that you need to do in the config file. So now I'm gonna start DOSBox and go full screen. And hold on, tap out of it so I can go see it in full screen. You'll see this as your startup page. And this is basically what happens if you just run anything as is. And this is what it looks like right when you start it up. Now, you aren't able to run any games like this because there is no hard drive. What you see is the set blaster equals, and then the Sound Blaster information. But then the Z drive is just the initial starting point for DOSBox, which is useless. You can't do anything like that yet. So when you run DOSBox, or really MS-DOS, it always starts in the C drive. So I'm going to open up a new File Explorer tab. And there's some memes. And this is my this PC menu. If you're in Windows, or I'm pretty sure this also applies to Linux, the one thing you're going to need to do is go to your C drive. Now, DOSBox always starts out in the C drive, but it isn't told what its C drive is. Now, if you actually, I'm going to show you how to point to a file that DOSBox can treat as a C drive. But I am warning you, do not tell DOSBox to run in your actual C drive as its host. Because then DOSBox is able to change stuff to your actual computer versus a contained folder where it's treated as a virtual hard drive. So what I would do is, well, I have an MS-DOS folder right here that already has a handful of games in it. Just a handful of games. So what I would do is I'd open up the C drive, because this makes it a lot easier to mount. I would drop the MS-DOS folder right into the C drive. So there. That's it right there. Just checking chat. So now, if I open up DOSBox, go into full screen with Alt-Enter. Okay. You can type in, intro if you want, and it will be able to tell you how to do things. If you type in CLS, it will clear the screen. That's just a normal DOS command, because there's always lines that are opened on top. So if you type in CLS, that's gone. That's a normal DOS command. Now if I type in mount and then C, it's telling it where it's pointing to in the C drive. You're going to need to type in the actual directory of where your DOS folder is. For now, mine is C MS-DOS. So it's on here, mount C, and then C colon left bracket MS-DOS. Now drive C is mounted as local directory C MS-DOS. Now if I type in C colon, it switches the drive. Like that. Now, if you have a disk drive and you want to play something like... I'm just finding the DOS game real quick in here. Like Theme Hospital. If you want to play a disc game like that, and you have a CD drive, you're gonna need to find out which drive letter the CD drive is. And wait a minute, is Windows even detecting my CD? Yes, it does. Right now, my DVD drive is G. So I'm gonna need to type in mount D. This is the D drive in DOS. G colon that. And then you're gonna need to type in, because this can have some effect on some games, -T as in telling it the type, and then CD-ROM. Now, drive D is mounted as CD-ROM G colon there. So now I am in the C drive, and right now I can't see anything. I'm going to do clear screen, and then I'm going to type in dir. This shows everything that is in the directory. So yeah, this is just everything that is in the directory. And if I want to change directories, oh, that's perfectly fine. All the commands in, as long as you know what the directory name is. Oh yeah, you're able to see the chat in the bottom right corner, even though it isn't fading away each message. That's why I'm telling you how to do this. Technically, this is for another friend of mine, but this should be helpful for you. Oh, now it's doing something. Oh, no, he deleted it. Huh. So if I want to enter a different directory, I type in CD, as in change directory. You don't know how to mount the disk drive in Linux. Well, if you find out what the drive letter is inside of Linux, like if you put in, hold on, let me demonstrate. Wait, actually, I'm going to close DOSBox so I can demonstrate how to do this with an actual CD. I have my game disk here for Theme Hospital. Actually, wait. Hold on, I'm going to do a different game, because I already have Theme Hospital installed. StarCraft DOS? No, I think StarCraft is. I'll do Command and Conquer Red Alert as an example, because I know I don't have that one installed on DOS. Or on DOSBox on this PC. So, if you load in a DOS game disk... Oh, Linux doesn't have letters? Well, you just mentioned that it says in Linux Home is the C drive. You said that's a C drive. That is a drive letter. Each drive has its own letters. So, if you put in any kind of disk into the drive, Windows should be able... It'll be able to see the files in Windows. So, if you just put in a DOS game disk, even for the drive, well, if you put in a disk, then you'll see the... If I click on this, then it automatically runs the auto exec for Command Conquer Red Alert. And, didn't know I had a Windows 95 installer for Windows 10. I can access the files in this. So these are all the DOS files, but because it's the same general structure for... It's the same file structure from DOS to Windows, so, or really anything, so you should be able to see the files. Even if you can't run them in Linux natively, you should still be able to see them. So I'm going to run DOSBox again. And actually, this is a good time to show what AutoExec is. Zoom in a little so it's easier to see text. Scroll down to the bottom. What this AutoExec is, it is the first thing that DOSBox, or really any kind of DOS, will type in, as in to configure a sound card or whatever. It's the first thing that it types out and clears or whatever. So I'm going to type in Mount C MS-DOS, so that it knows to point towards MS-DOS. And then Mount D, and then this is G on my computer. And then -T CD-ROM. And I'm going to save this so that it knows that's what it wants to do. Now I'm going to close that. Go back into DOSBox. And boom, it automatically ran the Mount C, MS-DOS, Mount G. Boom, it's already all mounted because I added it into AutoExec. Now I'm going to go into the C drive, clear the screen because that's all clutter. Type in dir, and then everything that I have installed. To change directory, you type in cd, and then whatever the directory name is. If you already know it, you don't need to show up the directory. I'm going to type in Doom. And then that changed the directory to Doom. And then if I type in dir, whoa, that is a lot of files. You can't see them all. If I type in dir /w, I think it is, it shows them all in a different way so that's easier to see. Then you see all these .wads, .exes, .bats sometimes. If you type in CD for Linux DOSBox or just Linux. Anyway, I'm going to type in setup because this is kind of important for making sure that games work properly. You instantly get this screen. So, back then, there was a lot of different sound cards available. And you're able to hear... You're able to see sound when I do this, or hear sound. So this music card thing, it will automatically default, and this port address stuff, you mainly don't want to change that. Because generally, it automatically knows which one it is. But sometimes you will have to experiment if things go wrong. Then sound effects card, I would just leave it as Sound Blaster because this is what everything supports. And then port address, I or Q, you want to just hit enter, DMA channel 1, sound effects to mix. I would go a little higher, like 8. Then if you save parameters and launch Doom, it's running Doom. I need to turn my... So yeah, Doom works. However, it can sound and work better. So let's go back into setup. I can change the music card if I want to. So I'm going to set it as general MIDI. And then MIDI port. Keep that the same. And I can change the sound card to PC speaker if I want, but I'm not going to do that. Save parameters and launch Doom. Now it sounds somewhat different. I'm going to turn off the sound effects. And go back and change the music card back to the Sound Blaster so you can hear the difference. And boom, that's Doom working. I'm going to clear the screen. And I have to type in CD and then ... and then it will go back to the root directory or whatever directory it was before. So now I'm going to go to my virtual D drive. Sorry, I got a Discord notification from the friend that I was originally going to show this to. Wait, you know what? I'm going to change the height to like 50. Right here, so it only shows the latest message. Or, nah, I'm going to make it a little better. Only the latest 2 messages, whatever. Oh, that isn't... Wait. I'm gonna see what it does. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it like this, because compatibility. Okay. So, this is the virtual D drive that I have set up. I'm gonna type in dir. It takes a while because, hold on. Not W. Because this is an actual CD that I have running in. Now, if I type in setup, you can hear the disk drive spinning. Now it's in the installation. Select vocal and sound communication. I'm gonna do and then test sound. Port RQ DMA. This is a cool installer, I gotta say. Then you can hear that so that the sound effects work. Because this installer has sound in it. Digitized source. Sound Blaster ASP 16A32. That's correct.
Sound hardware initialized. This program will install Red Alert to the following directory. If you wish to install to another directory or drive, please type it in below.
See, Westwood, Red Alert. I'm just gonna type in Red Alert.
Thank you. Installing. Please speak.
Now there's some audio glitches because it isn't actually installing it. Now I'm gonna bring DOSBox to a window and show you what's going on as it's installing. And turn down the audio real quick. Actually, you know what? No, it's almost done installing.
For last minute changes and notes, please view the README file.
He who controls the past commands the future. He who commands the future conquers the past.
And then it says to run, type RA. But I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to show you exactly where it installed to, because this is pretty important. We go to the C drive. There's the MS-DOS. Go into there, and what's this red alert? It's the game I just installed. And installed right there. It did not touch anywhere else, although it possibly can if you have a DOS virus. So now if I type in RA, it will run Command Conquer Red Alert. But I don't necessarily want to do that. These are all the games that I have installed. Note that... Oh wait, actually. Oops. directories.w. Let's see what's in setup. Setup aborted because it worked earlier. I'm going to type in RA and see if it works. This game has CD audio, so there's no changing the music quality. Please stand by as it's loading.
Stop playing with that thing. I've just got to adjust this. Give me the sequence calculations. Now! They're already done.
Clear compression, because old game, haha. Sweet.
Reinforcements have arrived. Battle control terminated.
So, this is setting up, if you just joined in, this is setting up the original version of Doom. Which I do have all ready to go. Now, let me... check the... Did he drop out? Oh no, I don't think he did. So I'm gonna... I found this source port for the DOS emulator called MBF204. Yes, it's a source port meant to run inside of DOS. /W to see what's in it. No. This is basically patched so that it can run Doom a little better inside of DOS. This game has this thing has an auto detectability, so I can see what sort of sound card you already have running inside of DOS. And test. I think this has a better... This has a better driver for the sound. Mini driver, I'm gonna change that. MPU 401, That's fine. MIDI driver. Oh, nope, already did that. Test. There, that sounds pretty accurate, but I'm gonna do the adlib OPL3. Test, just to see if it works. That works. Exit save settings. And if I type in MBF, and MBF stands for Marine's Best Friend, by the way. Now, I basically use Marine's Best Friend because it has better mouse support. And it's still basically the DOS version of Doom 2. Go into sound. I also have it set to WASD or WASD for this version of Doom. So yeah, that's Marine's Best Friend running just fine. /W. MBS/Doom. Yeah, no, that didn't work. CLS. /dub. And then I have something where if I type in sigil, it runs sigil. Now, there's a high resolution mode available where it basically sprite doubles. It's for... I may leave it on for compatibility reasons, but it's a nice addition. And I gotta say, this game sounds really great with Sound Blaster. And a sigil running perfectly fine. And completely within DOS. See, no issues. And you turn the SFX up and the music down. Yeah, that's that. Now, if you want to copy stuff into the DOS program, then, well, if you want to copy stuff to the DOS folder, all you gotta do is drag it in, but you gotta make sure that it is actually meant for DOS. Oh, look at that. I already had Red Alert installed. I didn't know that. Like Descent right here. This is just Descent. And Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall. Doom 2. Theme Hospital. Jazz Jackrabbit. Now, if you are emulating a game, such as if you're emulating a game that was originally on CD, then there's something that you gotta do. Some games, such as Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall, they have a CD check mechanism to stop people from pirating the game. Basically checking to see if it has the original game disc inside of it. Now, some games are tough cookies to get running, but here's how to get Elder Scrolls 2 Daggerfall working. And some games on Steam, such as Star Wars games like Dark Forces, they all run within DOSBox, just without all the setup necessary. So I'm going to go to the C drive, and I remove the Mount D from the thing. I'm going to type in dir, and I have a folder where I have 2 ISOs. Or technically not ISOs, but game directories. Just the actual game files. So, CD, games, CD. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to show you what happens if I try to run Daggerfall. CD dagger, dir. I'm going to type in dagger. Error. Unable to locate the Daggerfall CD. Make sure that the CD is in the drive before starting the game. And make sure that the drive letter assigned is the same as when Daggerfall was installed. Now, hold on. Oh, shoot. Didn't know there was an announcement for the Microwave Society thing. I'm in the Microwave Society Discord. Called, the Meat Locker. So, I'm gonna go back to the Game Cities directory. For some reason that happened twice. There's Arena, and then there's Daggerfall, but Daggerfall is a bit too long of a name for DOS. Dagger curly bracket 1. It's just the Daggerfall game CD. So I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do something tricky. I'm going to tell the game that this directory, which is the game files for Daggerfall, I'm gonna tell it that it's a CD for Daggerfall. So I'm gonna type in mount D, then C, MS-DOS, because that is the directory, and then game CDs, and then Dagger curly bracket 1, because the file name in Windows is too long for DOS to handle, so it does that. And then I'm going to type in dash type CD-ROM and dash label Daggerfall. Now I'm going to see if this works. Change directory to Daggerfall and run the game. What? Setup. I'm gonna type in install. What? Okay, this is a weird error. I'm gonna go to D and install. Actually, let me check to see if that file thing actually is what I think it is. Yeah, 509 megabytes. I have the original game disc for Daggerfall right here. I'm gonna see if it's a correct thing. Because I don't know what that error is. Yeah, that's all the data. Weird. I think I need to reinstall Daggerfall. I'm gonna reload DOSBox and I'm gonna install Daggerfall. C drive is already mounted. D install. And there, now it works. Agree to the terms. Reconfigure sound card. Main menu. Last minute some changes. Install the game. Change size. I'm gonna do huge. Yes. Install game. Go ahead and install. Might spit out an error. Yep. It doesn't see enough disk space. I don't know how big the disk space actually is. Change the install size. I'm gonna change it to medium. Install. I'm only doing this because it was spitting out the error, which is weird, but whatever. Set up sound card. Detect. This SCSI hard disk warning thing is really only for actual DOS machines. Then if I test,
Rest well this night, for tomorrow you sail for the kingdom of Daggerfall.
now boom, that works. And then select MIDI. Now this MT32, I would advise against using that one because that one actually requires a separate emulator in order to run. DOSBox does not use that as an emulator. So really the two things that DOSBox itself supports is Sound Blaster 16 audio and Roland Sound Canvas / MP401 audio. Is it just me or did emulation improve? I think emulation improved, actually, even though I didn't update it. I'm just gonna set it to the Sound Blaster because that sounds cool. Okay. Test digital. Test MIDI. Okay, that's good. Hit okay. And I think it's running the disk drive. Wait, it isn't. Did it lock up? Oh no, it didn't. It just weirded. Type in Decker. It says unable to locate the one file, but it doesn't care. You can hear the disk drive going. And boom. Daggerfall. Exit. And then if you type in exit, it will drop out of MS-DOS. It'll drop out of DOSBox. So I'm gonna try to copy this back in here. But for now, I'll show other games. See? There. This arena, that's the original Elder Scrolls. Oh, and by the way, Elder Scrolls 1 and 2 are available free from the Bethesda site. I'm gonna show you Descent. Game Boy 64 will like this. /dub. And setup. To show you what that setup utility looks like. Auto detect. Auto detection of hardware may cause it to hang because back then. Continue. It automatically sees as that digital sound card. That works just fine. Then music card. Music card to general MIDI 330. I don't like the way it, well, when you do general MIDI, it uses like a 10 megabyte large sound sample set from Windows itself, which I don't like the sound of. If I'm able to switch the sound font to something like Arachno, then it sounds amazing. But for some reason, it goes to the middle there. Descent, and then boom. And then detail level. New game. Yes. Sounds great. Dirt up. And I showed you Doom 2. I'm gonna show you the shareware version of Jazz Jackrabbit. Setup. This is a bit of a later game, and it doesn't have a music thing for the most part. Sound Blaster 16. Yes. Ultra high quality Pentium. Exit and save. Just see if it sounds good. And yeah, that's basically what it is. See, Tyrion. This game is free on for the music card. You're gonna have to actually check the MIDI file thing.
Krista.
If it says illegal command, it means you mistyped something. By the way. So now I'm going to if you have a Steam game that uses DOSBox or something similar, I'm going to show you how to get that running inside DOSBox. Because it's usually the best way to play the game is inside DOSBox and with settings that you're able to control. Program files, go to Steam, Steam apps, common. I got Quake over here. So I'm going to copy the whole folder, and I believe there's a DOS executable in there. Though I might be wrong. Go to the C, MS-DOS. I know that it is based on the Windows version of Quake. Like you can see GL Quake. You can see WinQuake. Standard Quake. I'm pretty sure that it's based on the Windows version of Quake. And it might require Steam, but I'm not too sure. I know that I have a proper Steam executable for this game somewhere. CD Quake. Quake. And boom. MS Dex not loaded. Music is disabled. Use -no CD audio if you wish to avoid seeing this message. Look at how fast it's running. I'm gonna turn off sound effects. At least get it really low. With this game, you're able to change video options. Default is 320 by 200, and it's running a bit too fast, as you can see. I'm gonna change it to 1024 by 768. I'm gonna press D to make it default. And there's no music. Why is there no music? Because this game uses Redbook audio. So what you have to do, or well, what this game likes for music, you have to have an audio CD loaded in order to play the game. So I thank you to Gameboy64 from the Discord server who gave me the files. I burned an audio CD with all the official music files for the game. Daggerfall back. And put the Quake CD in. I guess correctly. The DOS folder for or the Steam folder for Quake had that. Now I'm gonna tell DOSBox where my CD drive is. I don't need to do labeling or anything. It's just so that I can see that there's a CD drive and a CD in there. Now there's actual music running. New game. And Quake. And in my experience, the DOS version actually runs better than the WinQuake for Steam, like in terms of sound effect emulation, which I find really weird. And yeah, it's just Quake. Exit. And exit. Now I'm gonna go to my F drive and find my Steam directory there. Steam library, Steam apps, common. And you see this Wolfenstein 3D thing? I'm gonna show you something weird. Wolf3D.bat, Wolf3D plus cheats.bat, base. It has DOSBox. The official Steam release for Wolfenstein 3D, Wolfenstein Spear of Destiny, and if I load Steam, library, retro, if I install Doom, if I install Final Doom, if I install Ultimate Doom, if I install Shadow Warrior Classic, master levels for Doom 2, oh, that's Doom 2016. Ultimate Doom, base, DOSBox. Spear of Death, I already did that. Master levels of Doom, DOSBox, right there. And then it has Doom 2 files in there, including Doom2.wad. So if you get master levels of Doom, you literally get Doom 2 right there. Which I find really funny. all that is done installing. So I'm gonna copy Wolfenstein 3D, Spear of Destiny, Vinyl Doom, and Master Levels of Doom. Copy the official Steam releases into MS-DOS. I'm going to need to rename them. I'm going to drag the Doom folders into Final Doom and rename this Ed Games. Rename this Master. Put that in Id Games. Doom 2 in Id Games. Rename this to Wolf 3D. Drag that in Id Games. Spear of Destiny and Spear. Drag that in Id Games. I'm going to drag MVF in there too, because that counts. And Quake counts. There are Steam icons. If I run Ultimate Doom from Steam, it uses the bad scaling, as well as bad sound emulation, or music emulation. Like you saw how, whoa. Oops. You saw how that messed up the thing. So these games, they do not have proper scaling enabled. So I'm going to delete the icons because it just isn't a good way to play the game. So if you're going to play it off Steam, you got to copy the files to the DOS folder and then run it in MS-DOS with the actual customizable emulator, because as default DOSBox on Steam does not run well. CD Id Games there. Oh, well, if I type in Plutonia, it crashes because it's being told to run a Windows batch. CD base dir Doom 2 -wad Plutonia. See if that works. And there, Plutonia experiment. And then its default controls. Ugh. And mono. Ew. Doom 2 -wad TNT. dir slash dub. That's weird. It isn't loading dir. CD dir. Oh, for not for dir. CD wolf 3D. CD base dir. And wolf 3D. Third up. CD master dir. Master crashes it. So I need to figure out how to do those, but I'd say this is a good point to end the stream. And I'm going to edit this down to a feasible guide and then send it to my friend. Alright, see ya. Oh, actually, yeah. Peace.